This is NDTV, and you're watching Classics.
Hello and welcome to Walk the Talk. I am Shekhar Gupta. Today my guest is an unusual holy man. He is a holy man whose appeal cuts across all kinds of boundaries of region, of religion, of caste and creed, even nations and continents. But what also makes him unusual is the fact that he says unusual things, where holy men now acquire a reputation for dividing people, for preaching distance, for preaching division. Here is somebody who talks about reconciliation, who talks about solutions. People come to him for answers to their own spiritual problems and solutions and doubts. But now he's also been talking about solving some of our major political problems. For example, the mandir-masjid dispute in Ayodhya. He's been talking about it. He's even met the Prime Minister lately. He has many ideas, not just on mandir and the masjid, but generally on how to bring the communities, people together. To talk more about this, I am now joined by who else but Sri Ravi Shankar ji. Ravi Shankar ji, you talked about solving the Ayodhya problem. Now many people have tried, politicians have tried, courts have been wrestling with the problem, holy people have tried, religious leaders have tried, liberals, everybody has given it a shot. What makes you think that this particular formula might work? And if you could also talk about your formula a little bit.
You have to keep trying until you succeed. You have to keep on finding new ways, because as time changes, strategies will have to change also.
No, but if I understand your formula correctly, it actually implies that first of all, the Hindus apologize to the Muslims for destroying the mosque, and in return, as a gesture, the Muslims give over the land and give up all the claims on the site in favor of the Hindus.
Yeah, see, it's quite but a nature of civilized person to say, I'm sorry if you are hurt by any of my deeds or words. Asking for an apology is not anything that would take away one's self-respect. In fact, it enhances one's self-respect. And at the same time, if there is a give and take tendency between both the communities, it can do wonders.
But is a give and take spirit possible? There's been so much distance, so much bitterness, riots, destruction of an old mosque, anger after that. It's now become such a big political issue, among the Hindus as well as the Muslims, and particularly people who led the movement for the construction of the temple, or before that for the destruction of the mosque. You really think they'll come forward and apologize?
This has to come from both sides. See, this country has suffered a lot from the beginning, from many years now, before under Aurangzeb, and then after Mughals, and then from our own caste and creed divisions. So we have to now find out a solution where we bring people together, and court is not going to bring people together at all. So
why do you say so? Because we've been banking on the courts to solve this for a long time now.
See, in the court, whoever wins is really a loser.
How do you say so?
Because you win in the court, but you lose the goodwill of the other community. Even if something is left, that will also be lost. But if you give the place to the Hindus, and then the Hindus come closer to Muslims also, then there is a tremendous goodwill that can be generated between the communities.
So what you think is that an issue that's been dividing people could actually bring them together?
Bring them together if we do it out of court settlement.
You see, an out of court settlement, I don't know, because the reason the government has thrown this in the Supreme Court is simply that nobody seems to have the courage to handle this.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to face this issue head on. So might as well leave it to the courts. The courts take their own sweet time in India. And maybe they will decide, maybe they will not decide. But really, unless there is religious leadership on both sides, or political leadership that sits down and talks, how can such a solution be implemented? Who is going to tell Hindu organizations that this is the way to go? Who is going to talk to the Muslims and say, look, if the Hindus actually come up with this, settle with them. This will have long-term
You know, it
benefits
has
for you
to
and
be
the
a
nation.
collective effort. It cannot be an overnight thing, when people start thinking and talking in these terms
Right.
of truth and reconciliation, coming together and, um, not just going on with theories and philosophies which are not so practical today's life. As times are changing, and I think people have to revise their strategies.
You talk about what is practical and what is modern and what is plausible and what is pragmatic. I mean, we are standing in Rishikesh on the banks of the Ganga. People don't come here with ideas that are practical or plausible or which are modern, or people come to these ghats out of sheer faith. They don't question history, they don't question archaeology, they don't talk about what's today's wisdom and what's good for tomorrow. They come here because they inherited something in the past,
Right.
and they treat that as
Faith,
faith and
faith,
carry on.
faith, yeah. And faith is not opposed to pragmatism. Faith is not opposed to science at all. Faith very well goes with our scientific temperament as well.
But
In
how-
fact, there are what I would call as the scientific dogmas sometimes.
No, but how can you say so in times when people confuse faith not just with history but also with science?
That's why I'm saying that one has to keep learning, should not stop learning.
But how
Keep
do you,
on learning.
how do you how do you ensure that when people say, look, this is history because I believed it, and people say something happened on the banks of this river a million years ago.
Yeah.
Now, if an archaeologist or historian may turn around and tell you, but nothing happened here a million years ago. But you don't want to believe it because it's your faith. And now you have a situation where people are confusing faith with science. So they say anything that was to be discovered was discovered. A Hindu might say in Vedic times. A Muslim might say all the wisdom that's there, scientific or otherwise, is there in the Quran. So how do you take people back to thinking in modern terms?
They should have a comparative study of all different faiths and religion in the world. If everybody learns a little bit about every other religion, then there is an open-mindedness comes. Because once we keep that open-mindedness and ability to probe the truth, the quest of truth, that spiritual arena, when spirituality is something which can unite people.
Can you do this in a religious paradigm, in religious parameters? When you come from a holy mindset, a religious mindset, can you then be rational, and can you then appreciate what the other faith is saying?
Absolutely possible, and that's the beauty of this country. We have been having this. You go to any of these ashrams, see, you will find there is pictures for every other saint in the country. And
No, but
abroad,
every other saint will be a Hindu saint.
No, the saint is Hindu saints, but we do accept faiths from all other religions. You go to any, there will be a picture of Jesus, there will be a place for Quran, there will be, many ashrams today. They talk about one in all and all in one. So this concept of
But that's
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam has been in this
No,
country.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is all the world is a family.
Is a family.
Now that's now become a slogan. Everybody talks about it. Who practices it?
I think we need not lose that hope because it's already in our genes, in our whole thing here. We are doing it. I think people are realizing it everywhere else in the world also. There is more interfaith dialogues all over the world. Wherever you go, intercultural, interfaith dialogues are happening.